Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another edition of StarSound Speaks, episode 186. This is your host, Irlianna Samsara of StarSound Astrology. So this is the entire month of August astrology. Lots of activity going on in the month of August. So let's just dive right in. Okay, well, we start with the fact that on July 31st, which is today, is the epic conjunction, the historic conjunction between Mars, Uranus, and the North Node. It's one of the big events of 2022. I've already, as you probably know, have covered this if you've been listening to the channel. The episode that I just did the other day with Andrea Michelle, episode 180, hold on, 184. That's the one with Andrea Michelle on the Uranus North Node conjunction. And I also interviewed back in, I think it was June, Ari Moshe Wolf. He also had some incredible insights. Between Ari Moshe Wolf and Andrea Michelle, we have really gone deep into that subject. So if you haven't seen them, please do take a look. It's very empowering too. And let's face it, this month there's a lot of instability. This conjunction of all three in Taurus, in the sign of Taurus, Mars, Uranus, North Node, it's very rare that Mars joins in. And so it does provide more volatility, of this. And I have to say too, it's not just this transit, which I sometimes call it like going to the Super Bowl, where it's like, okay, that was a great event and it's over. It's like, no, this is actually a door opening, a new era, a new direction. The nodes are always indicating the collective transiting nodes, where right now we have the North Node in Scorpio, the North Node in Taurus and the South Node in Scorpio. And that is always about our evolutionary drive, right? What we need to lean into and what we need to, and what we often escape to with the South Node. It's not that you throw out the baby with the bathwater and say, well, I have to only do the North Node and I have to disregard the South. It's not that easy. It's about a blending. So in this case, with Mars in Taurus and Uranus in the North Node, it's leaning into innovative ways, a new innovative way of being, incorporating all the great things from the South Node. So Scorpio archetypes, the ability to regenerate, to let go of control in the unknown and regenerate and blend that and use that to propel us forward into this new place that we're in, which is obviously definitely about giving up comfort, right? Uranus and Taurus. Look at all the fires we've had, Lake Mead, approaching Deadpool status. We are in definitely unprecedented times. We're thinking about, the stock markets and the volatility and Bitcoin and all the crypto, and everything kind of just very teetering there on the brink. So obviously it can be very unsettling, right? In our world that's geared for comfort. So we, again, Andrea and Ari both gave some really great, powerful medicine for who we need to be, not what we need to do, right? Mars in its exile in Taurus, this is about, being and feeling and sensing and being grounded in the body. So this conjunction will have resonance for certainly well into August and beyond. We have to remember too that we have this fixed grand cross. It's the nodes are squaring Mercury and Saturn, and Venus is going to come along there, and the Sun, later in the month. So we're getting hammered, right? This one with it's not easy. It's our whole notions of things are being really a lot of, I would say, subconscious things being pushed to the surface that we're being forced to deal with, especially when it regards food, money, resources, things that we consider like survival. It's rewriting that script. And I would say too, it's about, with it being in Taurus, it's about being, instead of going out and when you see people in the news when they say, well, we got to fix this, we have to fix this, we have to do something. How many times have you heard that in the news? Well, we got to do something. It's like, no, the way through this is not through doing, it's through who do we need to be. And that's a real Taurus conversation. What do we need to embody? And how do we really viscerally feel that? And until we are here in the now, in our bodies, we're not going to be evolving, collectively. We have to come, from that place in order to have real authentic shifts and movement. So it's not from that doing, but being. So anyway, more about that in the other videos. So if you haven't, take a look at that. Okay, so these are all coming together at 18 degrees, fixed signs. Like I was saying in the other video, a new continent arises. That's the Sabian symbol. A new continent arises for that degree of Taurus. That's pretty cool. That can be, like I said, unsettling. Well, there was no continent there before. Something is taken away and something else comes. So in this midst of all this tumultuousness, we have to really, there is a grace that's being given, because Uranus, is that agent of change. It's that agent provocateur, as they say in French, right? That provocative, butt kicking, lightning pulls something away, but gives something better in return. We just have to trust that process. Easier said than done. But anyway, yeah, being that space, being here now, being in the moment. Because, when you think about what other choice, if we're not doing that, well, then what could we be the space for? Well, AI and technology overtaking, right? If you think about every 16 to 17 years, Uranus and the North Node come together. Of course, they're always going to be coming together in different signs. And if you look back in the last time they were together, it was in 2007, March of 2007. Well, Uranus ruling technology and the internet and AI. Well, what happened? That's when the iPhone came out. We had the smartphone. Social media. We had Facebook that had already started, but that's when it really exploded, when it was actually in our hands, in our phone, and it wasn't just on a computer on a desk. So social media, YouTube, Twitter, it came out of that. I think YouTube was 2009. But you could see how that door opened in 2007. So technology, new direction, where people were leaning into. The previous cycle of that was November of 1991. Then before that, September of 1976. I know around 76, that's about when Steve Jobs created the first personal computer, right? So the Mac. And so that boxy little ivory colored thing, you see it in the movies, right? I remember it. Anyway, yeah, so you can see how these have been major evolutionary change points. 1991, we're just on the brink of the internet, right? It was just coming literally online, right? And so we can see the evolution of these things. And I want to say too, technology having to keep pace with spirituality, it's always a good check-in to see that, because if it's not, then you have another Atlantis, right? You have this breakdown where technology gets ahead. And so it's a good soul-searching conversation to have. Where are we, that we've gotten into such a comfort zone with technology. I passed a guy today at the supermarket, and how do most people sit on? He was sitting on a bench in front of in front of the building, and he had his head down on the phone. That's such a common thing, right? And it's like, gosh, that's all. It's like we're not present anymore. We just got our heads in our phones. So again, this Mars Uranus North Node opposition conjunction, it's bringing up all these things about, comfort. We found so much comfort in technology, and that is about to get disrupted. And in what way is it going to get disrupted? We're going to have more of it, yes, and we can also have less of it at the same time. There's always extremes when you're dealing with Uranus. Like in today's news, we probably all read about the floods in Las Vegas, these epic floods, and the streets just flooded with lots of water into the casinos and the parking lots and all of this. And yet Lake Mead, which is just a short ride away, which feeds water for Las Vegas and all of Southern California, it's dropped another 8 or 10 feet. So it's at the point where it almost can't run the dam anymore, right? So that's huge, right? So you have this extreme between all this rain in Las Vegas, and then you have this complete drop, which is right next to it. It's just, and then you have these fires raging out of control. So it's these extreme water, extreme earth events. And yes, we'll clearly, see more of that. It's just all there in the mix, and it's not an easy time. But we do have each other, and we have nature to fall. We really, it's nature's inviting us to fall in to her. Venus, North Node, right? Venus ruling that North Node in Taurus, like be practical, earth wisdom, ground ourselves. Okay, enough about that. The rest of the month, Tuesday, August 2nd, this is the nice part of this. Venus in Cancer making a very positive angle, a sextile to that conjunction. Well, that can help ease. It's almost like a healing balm. So by connecting with ourselves and our emotions and how we approach and mingle with others from this space of care and compassion and all things Cancerian, it is definitely going to, help that process. Let's see, Thursday, August 4th, we have Mercury. We got lots of planets changing signs. Mercury goes into its home sign of Virgo. All right, so it's been hanging out in Leo, and it will be there until August 4th. And so it kind of settles down into its more grounded, practical, it's about precision in thought and speech. And it's definitely, it's in domicile, so it's very at home with that data that's very carefully figured out and carefully analyzed. This is a time in our minds when we might be overly picky or overly critical or overthinking something or being more anxiety ridden about details. And we can get lost in the forest from the trees, right? We can get lost in the weeds big time if we don't watch ourselves. So that's the shadow part to manage with Mercury and Virgo, coming across maybe too critical or too factual. It's the opposite of Gemini. So we want to make sure that we're staying curious, but we're also being discerning, not losing one's head. Okay, Thursday, August 11th, we have Venus moves into the sign of Leo. That's a lot of drama, where Mercury has been jumping around through the sign of Leo. Now we have Venus, the love planet there. And what's interesting about that is, of course, this is about being in love for the sake of love. Very interesting kind of, I would say, romantic and dating opportunities when Venus is in Leo, wearing her heart on her sleeve, professing love. It can be a little dramatic, let's face it, in Leo, it always is. But there's almost like being stuck in a romance stage of like this eternal, the falling in love part of romance, that part that it's that heady part. And so Venus and Leo can kind of like get stuck in that mode. And so there is that to play with. We do have a trine with Jupiter August 18th, when Venus and Jupiter trine. Now that might be really good, like winning the lottery and such, but this year, because Jupiter just went retrograde in Aries, so it's not in its forward movement, it's stepping back. So we might be rethinking that wealth and maybe being a little there's some good wisdom there coming in that will probably help this transit of Venus and Leo, so it doesn't get too overboard. All right, then we have our full moon, the full moon in Aquarius on Thursday, August 11th. And so when the full moon comes along in the sign of Aquarius, this would be about perhaps finding where our efforts of our beautiful, creative, outrageous Leo efforts of creativity and spontaneity and joy and adventure, where it comes to a head and fruition. And the full moon in Aquarius is going to be asking us, maybe it's like, hey, what kind of container do you want for that is calling to us, that it can perhaps long-term creativity, the pursuits that we have that won't be just over and done with, but really finding a container for our passions, you could say, that will last a long time, right? Saturn ruling the full moon, thinking long-term, thinking future in Aquarius, or Capricorn is the past, Aquarius is the future. So thinking about the future with some cool, innovative, progressive ideas on how we can keep the joy going, right, for the long term. Friday, August 12th, we have Mars is going to oppose the May 16th lunar eclipse point. So whatever came up during the eclipse season in the spring, we might find some opposition in terms of getting something launched or done or completed, that Mars in an opposition. We look at the conjunctions and oppositions. So it conjuncted it last, what was it, July 20th in the sign of Taurus. And now it will be opposing the lunar eclipse right, it'll be the lunar eclipse being in Scorpio, Mars in Taurus opposing that Scorpio lunar eclipse. So that could also bring up some conflict and some things that need to be worked out regarding these major changes. So whatever major changes happen to you as a result of those spring eclipses, here's another opportunity for things to get going and move forward. Saturday, August 20th, we have Mars entering Gemini, and that's the biggest ingress of this month. It is huge. Mars only retrogrades every 2 years. So the last time Mars was retrograde was actually during the presidential election in 2020. So it's almost 2 years. Now it'll retrograde in the sign of Gemini, mutable sign, mutable air. So we could find ourselves stepping back and maybe taking a new direction regarding our beliefs, our thoughts and speech and conversations and networking and commerce. We could also be seeing, in the collective, maybe there's a walking back. Gemini is the news media too. So we might be finding ourselves questioning and maybe taking a new direction with, like, where do we get our information from? Where do we, what is a new direction that we might consider or just reflect on around media and around information? Certainly very multivalent here with the possibilities. Mars is also about siblings and neighbors, so we might step out in new directions or feel ourselves stifled in the normal ways of moving forward in these areas. We might feel like everything slows down to a crawl. Mars is impatient, doesn't like, retrograde is not his gig, but it's gonna have to be, because that's nature, right? You got high tide and you got low tide, and it's just all part of the mix. But this is going to be, it'll go retrograde on the day before Halloween, October 30th, and it'll go direct. It'll stop at 25 Gemini, so it zips through almost the entire Gemini cycle zodiac sign before it stops and retrogrades. It'll go back to January 12th, it'll go direct at 8 Gemini. So by the time it swings out again, you're looking at like 7 months, well into next year, where Mars will be in the sign. Normally, Mars is in a sign for about 7 weeks, but in this case, it's 7 months. So if you're a Gemini sun or rising, or you have any major planets major any planets in Gemini in these degrees, especially around like 22 to 25 Gemini, you know, and back to 8, you know, 8 to, you know, maybe 11 degrees, some about around there, up 8, certainly around 8, where it'll turn around and retrograde. I mean, go direct. If you have planets in that set of numbers, right? 8 degrees, 25 degrees Gemini, you will definitely feel this passage, and it'll be really big. It'll be really big for you. I'll talk about that more in a separate video, but just wanted to give you that heads up, because that really is, it's really probably the last big transit important event of the year. Of course, eclipses notwithstanding, but this transit of Mars in Gemini, as I said earlier in the year when I did my 2022 forecast, yes, we are looking at something major here. Also perhaps a change in leadership. You know, Gemini is about switch, right? The old switcheroo, and Mars being the sign of a leader. You know, who knows? I've talked about Joe Biden before and Kamala Harris, and there are a lot of indications, you know, really a lot. You know, and I talked about that again in a previous podcast several months ago, how we could be seeing some major changes. Maybe she'll just be asked to step up and take more responsibility, because she's had kind of like more, as we have seen, you know, a lot more in the operating in the background. The focus has really not been on her so much in the news. Has had a lot of rough times. Those eclipses are happening in Kamala's 6th and 12th houses, as they are for Biden. They're both having eclipses in the same set of houses, the 2 most difficult houses in the zodiac. A lot of struggle, sacrifice, loss, effort, like that. So, and certainly health issues. So yeah, you don't know, you know, Mars and Gemini, you know, it's going to be there for the midterm elections in the US and we are having a lunar eclipse on election day. Yeah, like folks, you know, could we have any more drama, you know? Anyway, onward. Monday, August 22nd, the sun will go into Virgo, so that'll finish up our Leo season. We will be Virgo to September 22nd. And then we have Wednesday, Uranus, Wednesday, August 24th, Uranus, which has been in its stationary retrograde point of 18 degrees for several weeks now. It will finally station retrograde 18 degrees, 55 minutes, and it will step back 5 months. It'll go direct the end of January, January 22nd, to 14 degrees. So if you have planets around the degrees of 14 to 18 degrees of Taurus, Scorpio, Leo, or an Aquarius, this transit will definitely impact you. That's a reflection around, hey, what kind of progress have I made or not made in terms of letting go of things, of choosing a simpler path, of being more grounded and practical, all things Taurus. What needs to be revisited, what needs to be revised so that we can liberate ourselves and feel that freedom that really just comes from within. It's not about the projection on the outside world. It's about who we are and what are we bringing to the table. Okay, 2 more things. Thursday, August 25th, Mercury will go into the sign of Libra, where he will be, or they will be, until September 23rd. And then August 27th, we finish out with the new moon. The new moon will be in Virgo. So yeah, so that's basically that's the rundown. And for August, lots of activity, but really the most important thing is feeling our way through this big portal that's opening with the Mars-Uranus North Node conjunction. It'll be like resonating out like a reverberation throughout certainly the first half of the month. And Mars in Gemini entering the sign of Gemini, where it's going to retrograde later. That's also huge. And of course, a full moon is always important. But those are and Uranus going retrograde, you know, major outer planet, takes several months. Yes, these are all very key points here. So lots to think about. As ever, it's all for our good, right? This is all the universe. I love, you remember Rob Brezhny? I think he's probably still around. He writes the greatest astrology columns. I used to read them years ago. He always says, he is a syndicated writer, older guy, and he says the universe is always conspiring in your favor. The universe conspires to bring you blessings. And that has gotten me through the worst of times in my life. When I think about that, it's like, okay, I had a really tough couple of days earlier in the week. I mean, that Mercury squaring Uranus and Saturn and that T-square, oh God, it was rough. My cat, my Smokey, who's sleeping soundly now, the worst respiratory. Well, Mercury rules the lungs. It's in that square with Uranus and Saturn. Oh my God, of course, right? Naturally. So the thing that got me through was astrology, knowing, okay, I know the body parts. I have a basic understanding of medical astrology. And I can use that and match it against the timing and go, okay, this is not going to be forever. This is going to definitely pick up after Sunday. And sure enough, he's already starting to come out of it. So, but anyway, yeah, there's that. I hope you have enjoyed this and have gotten value out of this. If you have, we love to hear from you. How are you doing? How did you do with July? And what would you like to see happen for August with everything going on in your chart? As ever, you can always leave your comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Yay! And I know we will see you again very soon. Okay, everybody. Mwah, happy August. Yay. And this is Irlianna Samsara, StarSound Speaks, StarSoundastrology.com. Thank you all for listening. Namaste.